Hey everybody, Patty Ann here. Hang on just a second. So I have two things I'm going to show you today. The first thing I'm going to show you is how you can use pieces of paper like this that you get out of your paper packs and use these to make them into stickers. If you have Silhouette Design Business Edition and you want to make like a little small border around the outside of these that looks really nice and professional, here's another one that you could do. You could take these little images and you could cut them out. Well, they'd be a print then cut in Cricut Design Space, but you'll be able to print then cut with the added offset, and you can make the offset any size that you want to in Silhouette Studio Business Edition. Now, if you don't want to have an offset, of course, you can just scan this in and make it into a print then cut, I believe, just right in Cricut Design Space, I think. I haven't tried that yet since I have the Business Edition and it's so easy. I'm just going with that. What I just did do was this one right here. You see the little car down below? I created a really cute offset around that, or a little small offset around that. And I took it to Cricut Design Space, and I also did the flower and the little bike there, motor, I don't know what you call that. Anyway, that little thing. So, and again, I'm going to show you how to do that for Cricut Design Space, and it'll be a print then cut. But I also now have access to a Silhouette machine, a Cameo. My friend let me borrow hers, and I'm going to show you what you can do in the Cameo if you have the pick scan. And if you find cards like this or paper like this in a pack and you want to cut it out, instead of in a square like this or trying to fussy cut it with scissors, cut it out perfectly with your Silhouette. And again, you can do this with Cricut, but it will be a print then cut. For Silhouette Cameos, it will just be, you can use this and it can just be a cut. Okay, I'm getting ready to scan this in now to Silhouette Studio, and I do like to use my mat because I don't have any software associated with my scanner. So this just makes it really easy peasy for me. I've got this cut out a little bit and I've got it enclosed within this boundary here. When I put this into my scanner, I'm going to put this biggest arrow so it's on the side. So in other words, if this was my scanner right here, this is my scanner bed, I would put this in like this. Okay, so that you would think that you'd put it with the arrow towards the back of the machine, but I found that if I put the arrow to the side of the scanner and lay it down like this, that it works best. So I'm going to go put mine in there and I'll be right back. Okay, like as I said, I just got these pieces that I'm using out of, a pack of paper like this. Like here's the one with the little bicycles. There's also one that has really cute little foxes in it. Different things in here. Some of them wouldn't be appropriate, but there are quite a few things in the different flower packs that would be. Like this would be really cool to try to do, I think. Oh, there's some little foxes. And of course, I could just take my scissors and go around here, but if I wanted to have a nice little white border and look, it can be as large or small as I want, and to look really professional, and to use it maybe on a card or on a scrapbook page, it really works well to take it into Silhouette Design Studio first, and then add the little border around it, and then you can use it in Cricut Design Space. Again, if you're using a colored thing like this, it would have to be a print then cut in Cricut Design Space, as far as what I know right now. So the more I learn, the more I teach you what I've learned. So this is the first one I'm going to do, as I said. So join me again up at Silhouette Studio and I'll show you how I did this little car right here. Okay, I've placed my image on my Pix scan mat onto the bed of my scanner, and I've just opened a new instance of Business Edition. Notice when I open it, it always comes with the page setup. I like to have mine set to automatic cameo just because it gives me the largest size for the inside. And I've changed some of the coloring of mine, so my color may look different than yours, but I've just done that so it'll be easier to see on the screen on this video. So what I'm going to do is come up here to the right where it says Pix, and that'll open the Pix scan panel. And then I'm going to click on the scanner because that's what I'm using. And I've got to make sure that I choose the scanner that I have down here in the basement. That's the one I use. And I'm going to go to Import Pix Scan Image from Scanner. And it should start scanning quickly. Okay, this is the way I have it. I asked it to scan the entire scan area. I want the output type to be color. And I changed my resolution to 300 dpi and photo. And so I'm going to say scan. Okay, and now I'm just going to click done. And it's loading the image. And there it is. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do now is I'm just going to scroll over a little bit, just a bit. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab this little car down here first. And I'll show you how I do it for Cricut Design Space and also for a Cameo machine. So the first thing I would do is come up here to Trace, select an area, and I'm going to select the little, is that a Volkswagen Bug? It looks like it to me. So I'm going to select that. And notice there's not that much yellow. And actually we can zoom in a bit on it by clicking on this tool up here, the one that I think looks like a bug. And just zoom in on the area we want to get larger. All right, and now I'm going to change the threshold because I want to get it up higher. What I'm trying to do is get it high enough so I can get a pretty good trace of the whole outline of the car, and that looks pretty good right there. The bows might be a little bit kooky, but that doesn't matter. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Trace Outside Edge. So now I have the outside edge of this traced, and there it is. So let me zoom back out now with this minus tool, and I'll go over this way a little bit and bring my traced item over. All right, that looks pretty good, except for there's some things on here that I don't really need. So I'm going to zoom in again and look here. Let's see, and maybe zoom in just a little bit more. All right, there we go. All right, so what I need to get now are the node or the point editing tools. So I can just double click on this to get them. And there's all kind of nodes or points in here that I don't need. So for example, I don't need all of these right here inside. I'm going to hold down my Shift key and drag across those. Okay, let me try that again. I don't want to get some of them. And drag across those, and I can just hit delete on my keyboard or just do one at a time and delete, delete, and that'll let me keep deleting the ones that are connected. So I'm just one by one deleting these until I get to this, and that looks okay, except for I don't think I need that one right here. Did you see how it jutted in? And it still does. I don't need it to do that, so I could probably maybe get rid of this one. Let's see what happens. I don't really like the way that did that, so I'm going to undo that part. All right, there we go. Okay, the next thing we know we can get rid of is look at these places over here that are just not necessary. So again, I'm going to click on the node editor and click on the node editor, hold down my Shift key and grab a bunch of these to delete them. And delete. So that got rid of a bunch. Hold down my Shift key again and get rid of these right here and delete. And Let's see. Hold down my shift key and delete a bunch of these. Delete. Delete these. So I'm deleting the points, and what that does is once there's no longer a point right here, this line will go from this point that you'll see in a second to this one. So look at these points, and when I delete this one right here, delete, okay, did you see that, how it jumps now? And there is another little point in here I could probably get rid of, delete, and that's smoothing it out. Just makes it better. Can get rid of that little point there, delete. Okay, and then I still have a little bit of a mess right here and over here. But you know what? I probably don't need to work quite so hard on all of this, because what I'm going to do now is I'm going to just create an offset with this. So I can click on it and then come over here to the offset tool. Click on the offset panel and do an external or offset like that. And maybe I don't want it to be that big. Many of you have asked me, can I make it a smaller one? Oh yeah, you can make these as small as you want. I'll make this a 0.05 and apply. And you can see it's a lot smaller than what it was. I can make it even smaller, but I'm happy with that. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of this middle part. I don't need it. Say delete, highlight it and delete. And what is this stuff over here? Whatever this is, I'm going to delete it. I don't need it. All right, so let's zoom back out. And hopefully there's not a bunch of junk over here that would be, can't tell if that's dirt on my screen. All right, so let's move this over on top of the car. Just like this. You can see it's not that much bigger than the car now, right? And I'm wondering about those little bows, if I should have done that differently. I'll think about that. But in the meantime, what I would do if I was doing Silhouette, the Cameo machine, all I need to do now is go to Send, and I would just put that Pix Scan mat into my machine, and what it would do, it would read it just like our print then cut, and it would read exactly where this is and then just cut this out. Now the reason why I want to do it in Silhouette Studio instead of just in Cricut Design Space is I do like that extra added little white border. Of course you could make it any color you want, the little offset, but I just think it makes it look a little bit nicer. If you don't feel you need that, you can just do, I guess, a print then cut on Cricut just by scanning it into Cricut somehow. But anyway, this is the way that I do it. So if I were doing this in the Cameo, I would just send it and I would change it to whatever material I'm using here and have it be a cut, and that's what it's going to do. It's going to find this on the Pick Scan mat and it's going to cut just this out. Let's go back to design. Now, if we're going to use this for Cricut Design Space, let me change this color of the line. Remember the line color? We want the line color to be a grayish color, like not really visible, but just barely. And then I'm going to go to File, Save As, Save to Hard Drive, and I'm going to save this as a car, and I'll save it as a PNG file. And you're wondering, like, why are you not saving it as an SVG? Because I'm going to make this be a print then cut. Okay, I'll show you the difference. I'll save it as PNG and I'll make the background transparent, but that really won't matter this time. And I'm also going to go to File, Save As, Save to Hard Drive, and I'll save it as Car SVG, and you'll see what happens. SVG. Okay. All right, so now let's go back to Cricut Design Space. Okay, here we are in Cricut Design Space. This is the one that I've already done. I'm going to just delete it. And now I'm going to go to Upload, Upload an Image, Browse. I'm going to look for that car, PNG, it's right here. Go Open. And look at all that junk there, but don't worry about that. I'm going to go to Complex and Continue. And now I'm going to scroll over and find the car. And do you know how we usually use this Select and Erase tool? It's the very first one. The first one we're going to use today is the Crop tool. And we're going to crop out the rest of that picture. In other words, I'm drawing this rectangle around this part of the image, and that's the only thing I want to keep. So see, everything else is gone but the car. And now I'm going to use the Select and Erase tool. Now if I use it just the way it comes in and click, it gets rid of that offset we worked so hard to make. So I'm going to undo that, and instead of it having the regular amount, I'm going to go to Advanced Options and change the color tolerance to 8. And then I'm going to click. Okay, that looks pretty good. I'm going to preview it and see how that looks. Okay, that looks really good. There are a couple little pieces right here and here I might need to get rid of, but I'm okay with that. So I'm going to continue. I'm going to save it as the Print Then Cut. Save. Here it is, and I'm going to insert it. Okay, and let's look and see how well that came in. Let's see if we can find those dots we don't want. Yes, I see one of them. So what I might need to do, since I can't ungroup it or do anything, the only thing I can do to get rid of that little dot right there is to come to Shapes. And I'll get a circle since it's a little circle dot. And I'll make this smaller. And I'll just go over top of that little dot, and I'll have that selected. I'll hold down my Shift key and select the car, and now I can slice. So I can slice that little dot right out of there. And now I can delete these. And I think there was something else. There is. I see another little dot right here. So I'm going to get another shape, another circle. Of course, make it a lot smaller so it's easier to use. Put it over top of that little white dot. And while that is selected, I'll hold down my Shift key and select the car and say Slice. And that will slice all of these little pieces out, and I can get rid of all 3 of them. Notice there are 3 things here. I'm going to delete them all. And I think that's all I had to worry about. So the next thing I can do is just go to Make It. And of course I can make the car any size that I'd like it to be. And now it's a Print Then Cut. Now you can't tell that there's an offset around here very easily. And a lot of times people say, well, now I tried to do a Print Then Cut and it keeps cutting the rectangle instead of my object. I want you to notice something. Notice this right here, this color. If I change this canvas to white, you won't be able to tell that there's an offset there, really. So what if I have this big rectangle behind here, and I'll make it large, and I'm going to change its color to white, and I'm going to send it to the back just so we're not so confused. And now I'm going to grab both of these and I'll just say flatten. All right. Now we can't tell what's going to cut here, right? And if I go to make it, it looks fine, doesn't it? I mean, it's probably just going to cut around that little offset that we made. Well, let me show you a way you can test that. If you come down here to where it says blank canvas and click on that, and then come up here and click on this color tool and change the color, it'll show you exactly what's going to cut out. So what's going to cut is it's going to cut around the car right here, around the offset, And then when it gets to that box, it's going to cut out around the outer box. Again, you would not have been able to tell that if your background had been white. And you'd be saying like, why is that dumb box here printing out or cutting out behind my object? Well, that's why, because it's there. You just can't see it. So what you would need to do in this case is you would need to click on this and unflatten it. And then you need to get rid of this box that's behind it by Xing it out. And now when I go to make it, it's going to look the same, but we know it's going to cut just around the car. Again, if we go to cancel, we can tell that because of the color of the canvas. If the canvas was white, we really wouldn't know what's going to cut. So always test the canvas color like this, and you can see what's going to cut before you do it. Okay, so it's as easy as that. I do still recommend that you use the Silhouette Studio, because I just think that that really makes a nice offset border that makes it look a little more professional. I could do this also. I can do this little bike. How would I do that? The same way. I would come up here to trace, select trace area, and I would trace this little bike type thing. And I would have to make the threshold up quite high so I could get, oh, whoa, look at that ugliness. See that? Ooh-wee, that's no good. I want it high, but not so high that it makes that mess. So I'm going to try this. And right now I'm just going to trace the outer edge. Okay, here's the outer edge that was traced. And notice this line over here. I don't need that line at all. I must have grabbed it over too far here. So there's an easy way to get rid of the line here in Silhouette Studio. Just come over here to the eraser tool and you can simply erase it. Just like that. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to select this again and I'm going to offset it. And I'm going to external offset. It makes a great big huge one. Like I said, you may not want it that big. What if we just want a real teeny weeny one? I'll make it 0.4 and we'll apply. Watch how it changes. Okay, it's a tiny one. I click off of it and then I can drag the inner layer away. I don't need that. Then delete it. Click on it and delete it. And then I can bring this one over here and put it over top of the bike. And I can zoom in to see it better with this tool. And let's see. Okay, that looks pretty good. Now, if I was using Silhouette Cameo, all I need to do is go to Send. And it's going to show two things that are going to be cut out of that Pick Scan mat, out of that paper that's on it. So it's not a print and cut. I would just put it in there and it would cut it out of this. And I'll show you that at the very end for those of you that do have a Cameo machine, since I have one that I'm borrowing right now. And then again, for those of you who are using Cricut machines, go back to the design and we would simply go to File, Save As, and we're saving it and it's going to be a print and cut. Save to hard drive, and I'll just name it as Cycle. I don't know what kind of cycle that is. Cycle, and I'm not going to save it as a JPEG, and I forgot to show you why before. So I'll save Cycle as a PNG, and I'll also save Cycle as a SVG, and you'll see why now. So if I save it as an SVG, okay. So let's go back to Cricut Design Space, and I'll delete this one, and I'm going to go to Upload, and the first thing I'll do is I'll upload the Cycle SVG, and you'll see why that's not the one we need for this. When I upload Cycle SVG, look what we get. We just get the cut part of that file. So that's not really what we want. So I'm going to go back, I'm going to browse, and I'm going to get the PNG cycle. It's this one. Open. Again, I'm getting all this stuff I don't need, but I'm going to go to complex and continue. And I'm going to scroll over. And I did not change the color of that outline, so it's showing up red, but that's okay. I'm going to crop it so I only have what I want in this file for my print then cut. Okay, I'm not done yet, because if we continue now, look what's going to happen. It's going to print this and cut this box. This shows what's going to be cut. I don't want that. Let's go back. Okay, I want to crop this. Let me make sure I have the crop tool highlighted, and I'm going to crop this. Okay, and now the next thing I have to do is I have to get the select and erase tool. This time I probably won't have to mess with the options, since this red line will probably stop it from getting into the white part. Let's see. Yep, that worked like that. So let's continue. Here's what it's going to look like as just the cut file, and here's what it's going to look like as the print then cut. I notice there's one little blob here we don't want, so we can get rid of that. If we don't get rid of that, it's just going to cut it. But why have our machine work at cutting something we don't need? So I'm going to highlight this, save. Now I'm going to click on it to insert it. And I'm going to make it larger so I can see that little piece of stuff we don't care about. There it is right there. See it? So I'm going to get a shape. And I'm going to click on that shape and click on this and say slice. And I can delete all of this. Let me do that, and I can delete this. Okay, so we're just left with, uh-oh, it's like there was something else still up there. Nope. Okay, so we're just left with this. Now I've made this a lot larger than what it was originally. Do you see how blurry it looks right now? So it's probably not a good thing to make these really large compared to what they were originally, or it gets it all blurry. So I'm going to scale it way back down again so it's the proper size. And I'm just going to go ahead and make this a print then cut. And I'll make the other one a print then cut, or I'll cut it out of that one using the Cameo. And let's check it out and see how they worked. So I'm going to make this. And I'm going to continue. Send it to my printer. Okay, while that is printing, I've gone back to Silhouette Studio. And those of you who have a Cameo or a Silhouette machine, I'm just going to go to Send. And I have this page still on my Pix Scan mat. So I'm going to connect it to my Cameo and cut this, and I'll be right back. And it is, well, it's not really cardstock. It's paper. No, not paper. Copy paper. Pattern paper, medium. Okay, so I'm going to leave it at that. Okay, I wanted to show you the images that I cut out of both the Cricut Explore Air 2 and the Cameo 3. The Cameo 3 one, the only difference really is that rather than it being a print then cut, it actually cut around the image that was from the Cardstock book. So you can see how the windows are all shiny like that. Now if we look at the two motorbikes, they're very similar. The one on the bottom is the one that was done with the Silhouette, and it might just be darker like that because of the ink maybe in my machine. So they're very, very similar. They both were cut out perfectly. They both have a very nice small white offset around them, and I'm really pleased with how both of them turned out. This one, as I said, that's the Silhouette one, it has a little bit of the shine to it because that's what was on the card, you know, the cardstock paper, and the other one does not, but I think they're both really great. And they'd be perfect on a card or on a scrapbook page. You could pop dot them up a little bit so they'd be offset a little bit. Anyway, so both would work perfectly. I still do recommend that you use the Picscan mat. At least that's what I'm going to continue using, because I don't have a software into which I can automatically scan images from my printer. So that's it for this video. Stay tuned. I'm going to continue doing more, and I'm going to do things in both Silhouette Cameo for while I have it, and also in my Cricut Explore Air machine. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give me a thumbs up and be sure to subscribe and ask questions down below. I really appreciate it when you ask questions. You know, we all learn together, and this is just what I know right now. So let's keep learning. Thanks for joining me, you guys. Bye-bye.